overspend, right? But they're trying to spend as much as possible because if they stay
the government's backwards.
Because if they stay within their budget, they're going to be like, oh, you don't need extra funding.
Herein lies the problem.
So it's totally backwards.
Herein lies the problem.
Rick knows.
You guys ready?
I know.
Rick knows.
Rick knows.
Dan's a fantastic man. He really is.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome.
On runners that dies of a heart attack.
What's going on, everybody? This is Dan French. This is Saturday, and we have the wrong date up there. Yeah, Saturday. What's going on, buddy?
And we have the wrong date up there.
And we got the wrong date up there. So what's going on, guys? How you doing today?
Good.
Good. Let's go ahead and get into this. This is every Saturday we do a stream here. So if you guys, this is your first time here, we do a stream on financing real estate, money talk, entrepreneurs through on-job experience here in Las Vegas. And as always, you know, we have a full studio and we have, you know, quite a few people in here. So I want to go over to Rick, talk with Rick here. Rick, what's going on, buddy? How are you?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I'm doing good. How about you?
Good. So what's going on, man? How's life?
Man, life is good. Everything is status quo. Getting ready for the holidays. Doing out some shopping. Fighting with people over hot products. You know.
You shopping for Christmas sweaters?
I'm shopping. Hey, check this out. All right.
You still shop?
Oh yeah, he shops.
I hate shop. Amazon.
Rick representing the Christmas spirit. I love it.
There we go.
So yeah, we got a full studio today, and we're just getting started. Yeah, and guys, we want to say a couple things out here. So you know, we really put this show together at the start of the year, and what we're trying to do is really connect with people out there, you know, people that are needing money, or not money, but information on, you know, financing, real estate, anything that can help you out there. So we're really doing this for you, and you guys make the show. And so there's a lot of value that you guys bring to us, and we're hopefully bringing the value back in return. You know, we talk about a lot about just facts and stuff like that, but we all go through these challenges together, and we talk about these challenges, and that's what I want to emphasize on today's show. You know, again, I want to emphasize what the show is about. I'm your host, Dan French. It's entrepreneurs, real estate, money talk through on-job experience, financing. We do all these things that we go through, and we try to really bring the up-to-date information, also the right content. And so we have a lot of good information we're going to talk to today. I know we just introduced Mr. Rick Rains. Let's go over to Brett. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
The sponsors are paid now.
They are.
Cool. My buddy calls me. I tell him every week I have a podcast at 10. Here he is calling me.
He's calling you right now.
He's actually who we're going to have on next week. Johnny. We're going to have next week.
Oh,
you need to go easy on him.
I'm going to go easy.
Mr. Johnny.
So anyways,
The gatekeeper
not much,
here,
man.
Brett.
I'm just out there trying to keep up with things, keep on keeping on. You know, very good time for buyers right now. So I'm actually starting to get a few offers accepted that we weren't before.
You got any holiday plans?
No,
No?
just my wife and I
Sit home?
sit home,
Cry?
watch a few Christmas movies.
Oh, yeah.
Don't
which
you mind
which
out.
Christmas movies go
Yeah,
for?
what's your favorite?
A Christmas Story, of course.
I was about to say
Oh,
that.
I
Yeah.
love that story.
And you know, so they just had a thing about what was it, the 80 or 75 anniversary of A Wonderful Life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never seen that.
You haven't?
I've seen
It's a
Parts.
parts of it, but I've
bits and
never.
pieces.
It's a feel-good movie,
It's just
man.
one of those things
Yeah.
where just I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I just have never. But you know, you can watch like the Rudolph cartoon, and I've seen that a million times.
So we also
great
want to go
stuff.
ahead and
Great
introduce our guest
I guess I'm
here.
done.
Yeah, you're done.
I'm just kidding.
It's not the Brett Jenny show, okay?
Oh, okay,
We're not going to introduce...
Brad Jenny workbench. I wouldn't call it the workbench.
Mr. Joe Dragon, what's up, buddy? How are you?
I'm doing well, Dan. Doing well.
Thanks for coming on again, man. We appreciate you coming back. What have you been up to, buddy? How are you?
I've been good. I've been just, handling dad life.
How are the cases?
Cases, they're up, they're down, right? In and out. No, I've got a lot of...
Up and down.
Are you pretty neutral about things like that? Like it's just strict business, and you don't really ever have any emotion, or if your opinion doesn't really, you don't put much thought in it. Just
I put a lot of thought into my...
well, I mean, you know what I mean? Like do some things, and some people like you have a little more emotional involvement in, it, or is it just straight? Can't be that way.
Well,
Or
I
just
honestly,
doesn't?
that's what you're talking about. Straight business. Everything I'm trying to get my clients to understand.
Yeah.
Right, because you're going to be much more effective with your case or your legal issue.
Agreed.
If
Yeah.
you can handle that mindset. a judge or other side, they don't know you. They don't care about your emotions.
It's just about
they
the
want
law.
to get
Yeah,
their
gotcha.
job done, and so I have to have that discussion with
Yeah.
you. That if you believe that there's an actual sense of justice, yeah, throw that out the window.
Have you found?
There's rules, and you have to manipulate those rules.
You have to
but-
know the system.
But don't go into a civil lawsuit thinking you're going to get justice.
I
You know,
gotcha.
It's about money.
When
I
you
gotcha.
when you go into court, has it been your experience that if either the plaintiff or especially the defendants get emotional in court over something and the judge sees it, recognizes it, that it actually hurts them when they do that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's insane
Absolutely.
because
Really?
you know, when we do evictions and you see the guy, he comes in his this is again 20 years ago, or the lady that brings in 4 kids that are screaming. The judge knows that they're doing this on purpose to pull heartstrings.
that just enrages them?
It just enrages them, and
Well,
it's like
every judge is different, but I mean, exactly like. Look, if you're gonna try
it's
to,
like, it's like
They
the
don't wanna
people-
feel like
the
they're being
case, if you're
played.
talking like a family law case like that, like you think somebody who's been doing this for 30 years,
like they haven't seen this
Yeah,
before.
yeah, that's the thing, right? Like,
You're the
and they
first.
think their case is unique,
yeah,
right? And I've
You're
always
the
kind of
first.
said, I think that for most part, anybody that ends up in litigation, other than like businesses kind of going at it or whatever, which is usually business decisions, although businesses can be just as dumb.
yeah.
There's a reason you're in litigation, right?
Right.
Like there's not most people don't get in litigation.
Well, let's-
right? There's a way to handle it, and usually I say do not go in court. Court is like your nuclear
That's like your last
option.
resort. I
Yeah.
gotcha.
Anyhow.
I gotcha.
Anyways,
Anyways,
you want to try
Let's go ahead and introduce our guest here because
we're a little
we need to
sidetracked.
get.
Sorry,
Yeah,
man.
we got a little sidetracked here.
Blame
So
me for that.
we have Mr. Remy Hernandez, Wright Finley Zach law firm, represents credit, real estate, and loan servicing. Right? Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, man. So hopefully we got all that correct. So what's going on, buddy? So what do you do, and what is your role with these law firms?
So I work at a law firm that represents creditors, and I represent
Bad guys.
creditors in foreclosures, bankruptcies. I do a lot of federal consumer protection work like RESPA, the Fair Credit Reporting Act, the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act.
Sure.
I also represent credit unions. I do collection work for them like replevins, like getting vehicles back for them. I also do breach of contract suits. So if it involves real estate
Sure.
or collection work, that's what I do.
Yeah, and Ramy, so just to get you up to speed, this show goes over a lot. It's been this last year talking a lot about the real estate market, specifically Vegas, but the whole market in general. And if anybody's been paying attention, real estate just has been going up consistently for the last 7 years and was 22% this year, so a huge jump. So a lot of our listeners want to know, is this a good time to buy or those sorts of things? And the question they always get, because if you're thinking about buying now, well then historically you're always at a higher price point than you were the day before. And so there's, obviously reprehension or fear based on that because what happens if things don't work out. So I think a part of that I think you can show some insight is if you do end up in some financial trouble and you have a mortgage and you bought, what's the foreclosure process like? What options do you have and those sorts of things? Do you have, any insight on that?
Sure. So I do foreclosures here in Nevada. Basically, Nevada is a non-judicial judicial foreclosure state.
Which means you can sell without going to court, right?
So in some states, you can only sell the property in a foreclosure sale if you file a complaint in court, go to court, file a lawsuit, and the judge gives you an order to foreclose. You can do that here in Nevada, but it's kind of rare. The more typical process is non-judicial foreclosure, where the trustee does a notice of default, and then if you don't cure the default, does a notice of sale, and then the property goes to sale, and then they have the right, the new owner has the right to kick you out of the property or evict you from the property. But there's a process to do that because when the foreclosure crisis happened in 2008, they created safeguards again for homeowners to make sure that the foreclosure process didn't happen quickly without them having some input.
Sure. So we kind of like last week we specifically spoke about, or it was a couple weeks about AB 284 when they came in basically and said ex-nade. So explain that a little bit to people what that meant. Like we know it basically made it in a sense super hard for a bank to go through with the foreclosure process once that bill was enacted. What does that specifically target and how is the process, if you could?
If AB 284 was the foreclosure mediation bill or the homeowners bill of rights?
The foreclosure mitigation.
Okay, so in 2009, the state of Nevada passed the foreclosure mediation bill.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's changed. It first started as you had to petition. You had to check off a box and petition with the Supreme Court for foreclosure mediation. Well, they let the foreclosure mediation program sunset, but then they brought it back. And they brought it back and they changed it. So now you actually have to file a petition with your local district court.
Okay.
And then what happens after that is now you have 30 days to do it after you get your notice of default.
Okay.
So you have to elect into it. It's not automatic. So if you don't elect into it, you don't get to go to foreclosure mediation.
Okay.
And so let me take a step back. So in Nevada, to foreclose on a residential property that's owner occupied, and owner occupied means you live there.
Yep.
You have to get what's called a foreclosure mediation certificate. And once you get that certificate, then the trustee can record the notice of sale.
Okay.
So what happens is when you elect into mediation, it stops the certificate process and allows the parties to go through a process where they can resolve the dispute they have or give options. It's not even really a dispute. It's more of it's a chance for the parties to get together and to discuss.
So in the normal foreclosure process, when someone owner doesn't respond here in Nevada, keeping it simple, it's basically 120 days. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, you have a 35-day period for a breach letter.
Okay, and then 120.
You do the notice of default. So it's about 155 days.
Okay, 155 days. Okay. So if they elect to do this mediation, how long does it take to get in front of a mediator, and how far does it push that back?
Very great question.
Well, see, I do mediation, so that's a very good question. Usually, the mediation. So you have 30 days to petition. Most people wait till the very end to get that extra time.
Okay.
And
you're savvy, you should.
Yeah, you wait till day 29 or whatever.
Right. No, I would. If I were you, I wouldn't wait till day 30 because you don't want to be at the steps of the courthouse. Do it a day or two before.
Yeah,
probably best.
28 days.
But
and then the loan servicer has to file. The loan servicer or the beneficiary, actually the beneficiary who's represented by a loan servicer. Let me explain what a loan servicer is because I don't think most people understand the difference between a beneficiary and a loan servicer.
Break that down because people listening don't.
Okay, so when you sign your note,
promissory note.
Your promissory note.
I promise to pay back the loan.
Yep. So here's my loan. I promise to pay it back.
So the person who holds that's called the note holder.
Okay.
Okay. And then there's a deed of trust which secures the note because the note is just a piece of paper.
Sure.
I'll make the distinction between the note. The note's only between the borrower and the lender. The deed of trust gets recorded against the property, so it's a lien against the property.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Correct.
Yep.
And then they could be two separate entities, by the way. And usually, when you sign your deed of trust, there may be a separate beneficiary from the note holder. But in order to foreclose, they have to be the same entity. So. A lot of people may see a deed of trust. A lot of the people see a deed of trust that's made that where the beneficiaries MERS, mortgage electronic registration systems. Mm. What happens is when the foreclosure is about to happen, or at some point the deed of trust gets transferred or assigned to whoever the current note holder is. Okay, so the note holder and the beneficiary hires a loan servicer. A loan servicer is like the one who is like I guess would be your bank is the one who you make
like
their
a
payments
collection
to.
agency.
Yep. Right.
In a way.
Not quite
the
regular collection agency. And there's actually some interesting jurisprudence about it, but that would be for another time. But
we're going to get steamrolled already as you go on that one, man.
Right.
Wake up, everybody.
One thing at a time.
Yeah. But the loan servicer is like, it could be like Bank of America or Wells Fargo. It could be PHH Mortgage. It could be anybody.
Yeah.
There's lots of loan servicers out the country. It could be an individual. Okay, and so the loan servicer acts on behalf of the beneficiary and the note holder of the deed of trust. They become their pretty much their attorney. Attorney.
They're their hired gun.
So think about. Sorry.
Go ahead, Joe. Go ahead.
So when you take out a mortgage, right? You're taking out money and you're paying interest, and that's how they make their money.
Yep.
The people who actually make that money are usually investment pools. Just people who have interest in trust and entity, right? And they're all taking a percentage of all these different loans. That's where the money actually goes to.
Okay.
They don't do anything. They're passive investors. Okay, so the servicer is the person that's just like kind of like Rick does for property management.
Yeah.
Same sort of handling all the loans.
Yeah.
And they don't even know what's going on.
They do all the work, yeah.
Okay, and so I think for the listeners, Ramey, correct me if I'm wrong, so, for people who have no idea what we're talking about, from your perspective, you take out a loan to buy a house. Okay. The question then becomes, if I don't pay it, what's the consequences, right? So first thing, Ramey, what happens if you don't make your payment on the due date, usually the first of the month?
So if you don't make your payment on the due date, they'll send you a notice of intent to foreclose, an accelerate letter.
And how many days after that?
That's 35 days.
So that's just if you've got to miss 3 payments though.
No, the first
No, you
payment.
can
The
miss
first
one.
payment.
You can miss one, but
Okay.
I think the general rule of thumb is you miss 3 because they don't want because it's an
Yeah.
expensive process.
Well,
They
okay,
don't want to
technically, I
foreclose.
guess.
Yeah.
All right, so
I'm used to seeing 30.
the earliest you miss
I
a
mean
payment,
90. Sorry.
miss the payment on the first, the earliest you will get notice that it's 35 days later that says, which by the way, 35 days means you missed another one, which says, hey, you haven't paid, pay up, right?
No, correction. The first thing they do before they can do a notice of default is they have to send you a 35-day notice to cure.
Right, and that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And how long? does
But
that
you
usually-
won't receive that until
1
You
to 3
default
months.
until you default.
okay.
1 to 3 months.
Okay.
After you miss a payment.
Okay.
Okay, then once you receive that letter, that's when you can begin loss mitigation process. A lot of people don't even get to the foreclosure mitigation process because they call their lender and go, "Hey, I need a forbearance.
Yeah, how can we work this out?
How can we work this out?
Yep.
Can I get a loan modification? And can I get a short sale or short payoff or whatever?"
But assuming they don't call, you're looking at 1 to 3 months before
Correct.
you get that notice.
Okay.
So that's almost 90 days, and that usually is 90 days, although it could be earlier, right?
Okay.
Right. And I want to make it clear, there's something called dual tracking provisions in our Nevada and federal law. If you're in the middle of a foreclosure, like
Yeah, they can't-
alternative
yeah, they have
process,
to
they
stop.
can't
Yes.
foreclose
Yep.
on you. Okay.
Yeah, that's the one that was the main law that they passed. I think it was in 2012.
2013. That was
2013.
that's called the homeowners.
Yeah,
Bill of Rights.
that one. That's where basically said they had to stop. Yeah, because they were doing both, dude. I mean, they were. You know how it was.
That was before I became a lawyer, so I can
Oh
say not
really,
guilty
dude?
to that one.
It was just. Never mind. It was crazy.
So I want to take a look at a couple things here.
What do you got?
So, want to make sure everything's on point. So let's take a look and talk a little bit about what. Go ahead. What are we going to say?
I want to get my question answered.
What's
go
your
ahead.
question?
What was your question? I'm sorry.
The original question was, once they file for mediation, how long does it
Well, I
push
was
that
making a
back?
point.
Okay,
like,
Yeah,
so let me
just make it simple.
So what happens is
I'm trying to make it simple.
if you don't,
We're realtors, man.
If you don't cure it by the time of the notice of cure letter, then then the trustee records what's called the notice of default, and that triggers your mediation period. You have 30 days after you receive that to petition for mediation.
And how long?
And you do.
How long if you don't make a payment, you get the notice of 30-day notice, and before a notice of default will be filed. In other words, what's that time period?
So you miss a payment, they send you the cure letter. You have 35 days from the cure letter before you file the notice of default. And then after the notice of default, you have 30 more days to do your petition
So
for
with
mediation.
So then you petition, and how long for mediation?
Okay, so you petition for mediation.
I'm trying to answer your question.
The beneficiary,
I'm trying to lay a timeline.
the
down.
beneficiary or loan servicer has to file an answer. Then a mediator is assigned, and the mediation has to take place within about 90 days from the time.
Okay, so potentially you could take it out another 3 months,
Yes.
90 days.
It's usually in
So
practice.
from
it's more.
155, it could go to 245. It could basically end up being close to almost a year.
Yes.
That's correct.
Okay, that's
And that's
what
the point I was trying to
That's
lay it
what I was
out.
trying to get to.
If you do nothing, right, Ramey? Do nothing. You don't respond to everything. The earliest foreclosure would be what? 8 months?
5 to 6 months.
Yeah, that's about right.
155
If you do
days.
nothing, you elect for mediation, which they have to give you.
It could be years.
Could be, and that's
Dude,
assuming.
we did short sales on people who didn't pay their mortgage for 5 years.
Right, well,
I have cases right now with
That's
people who
great.
haven't made a payment since 2008.
Oh man.
Yep.
And they're still
Yep.
They're
wow.
still
They're
out
still
there.
in the.
Yeah, they're not
So-
going away.
Those are the stranglers.
So now that brings up a new question, which is of interest. So they haven't been paying since 2008. Are there provisions in the note that says that if something like this happens, does interest keep compiling or does it
Yeah.
stop? So in other words, they're in one way they're kind of sort of screwing themselves on one end, because if it ever gets resolved, they're going to owe this much.
Yeah, but they'll never
More
pay
money.
it. They'll
Never?
pay it. Because the point I was trying to make with that is if the bank's really on their game, right, and you don't do anything, it's still going to take 6 months for them to foreclose,
I know,
probably
but-
longer. If you do things, you get to a year, right? Your question with the interest, yeah, technically they owe the interest, right? But they haven't paid for 12 years.
I understand.
Are they going to pay the interest? No, the bank only has as collateral the property.
Correct.
Once they sell, they technically could sue you but you're not paying.
But you're not going to pay. No.
Well, they have
So-
limitations.
and that's-
on,
and
So
they
you
have
don't mind having
limitations
terrible
too.
credit, but a free house. I mean, that's the reality of what the people have been able.
Well,
to do.
I think
This
another
is-
way of looking at it is this: if there are people who, if you haven't paid your mortgage since 2008, if they had foreclosed in 2010, 11, you would be back almost reset to a position where you can buy a
Yeah, where
better
you could
house
buy.
now.
Yeah.
But if you did that process, you're now at the position where your credit is shot for years. And it's going to be years again before you can buy a house. You know, I think people understand that. Yeah, you're getting a free house, but there's consequences to getting the free house.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's my point, though. Like, you know, why do you need good credit, though? I mean, I'm not saying do this, but I think this is their mindset. Why do you need good credit if I'm not making mortgage payments on this other stuff? I mean, I had a case once where a house was $700,000, same thing. Didn't pay things since 09, maybe even earlier, 07.
Jesus.
19. It was in Lake Tahoe.
Yeah.
It was worth over $1 million. And these guys kept playing the system over and over and over again and hadn't paid anything to live in a vacation house or whatever. I had another case, this is an interesting story. Because what we were talking about, Raymond, the mediation case, right? So this guy defaulted, they were going to foreclose, we were representing the servicer. And they get 20 days before the foreclosure was supposed to happen. So they went through mediation, didn't work. The bank did everything they were supposed to do. Very last second, this guy decides to make an entity, right, and transfer title of the property, quick-claim deed, to this entity. Then they sue the bank and ask for a restraining order, right? Now, restraining orders, the other side doesn't necessarily have to be heard because it's emergency is what they say. And they say their argument was, which is BS legal argument, but they didn't lie in the affidavit. It was only the argument. Argument was this entity didn't go through the mediation foreclosure, right? Only the borrower went through the mediation. So now technically that's BS because the borrower is the only one that's in contract.
Yeah.
But what are they doing? They're confusing the judge.
Yeah.
They got the TRO and they screw everything up again and start the process all over again.
I want to make one thing clear though. You do not have to be the borrower to elect into mediation. So if you purchase the property at a foreclosure sale subject to the first deed of trust, and I'm sorry if I'm getting technical, I can clarify.
Yeah,
these
no.
terms.
No, that's fine.
If you buy a property subject to the mortgage or the lien,
Right.
but you live in the property, you are entitled to go into foreclosure mediation. Now, your options won't be so much because it's hard to get a loan modification if you're not the original borrower.
Let's talk a little bit, all right? So we're trying to bring value to people out there, and we're just throwing facts and spit.
Well, hold on,
and a
Dan.
bunch of
What
stuff.
I'm trying to say though is if people, the whole point of this, if people are worried about, buying a house, right? This is the whole point. I'm trying to illustrate it. If you rent a house, what's the rental price? Same as a mortgage price, right? Maybe even more.
Yeah.
In this market, okay. No, you don't think so, Rick?
Oh, I know so.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So you're paying more for rent. If you default on your rent, that whole stay on eviction's gone. It's going to take them, if they're on it, a month to get you out. If you buy a house, you're looking at least a year.
If you know the system, you can really play it out.
Well, let's talk about it though. Okay, so you said back in 2008. Let's kind of retract and kind of reset here for a second. So you got into this business how long ago? You said
2013.
Okay, 2013. Now, when you're going through this, and you said in 2013 you saw the aftermath of what happened in 2007 and 8, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so what is different between that market versus what you're dealing with today? Because I don't feel like you have the same amount of people out there that are probably going through the same issues, right?
I think there's more protections. Now, I only do the back end. I do foreclosures. My understanding is there's more protections up front now for lending. They have to be there. Remember the old ninja loans where you no job, no income.
Yeah, Nina loans. No income, no
Right.
no assets.
Those don't exist anymore. So
Those are great.
in theory,
Well,
I could be wrong.
they by and large, they don't. I mean, you ask anybody who's even very well qualified right now, and they're like, "Jesus, I had to get my arm, my leg, and my firstborn to get this mortgage." I mean, that's literally the qualifications now. Your firstborn.
And the other thing that's different now between the foreclosure crisis, and this is what scares me the most, is why I think that we could have another foreclosure crisis, is what caused the last foreclosure crisis is the prices of the houses got so high and people entered into these adjustable rate mortgages.
Yeah.
And as soon as their adjustable rate mortgage went up, it became...
And they had no skin in the game.
They had no skin. They just said, I'm not going to pay this anymore. And
See
they
ya.
foreclosed.
And then
now, what I'm noticing from foreclosures is a lot people have a lot more equity in the property.
Yeah.
And when you have a lot more equity in the property, you're less of a sympathetic homeowner because all right, you can't afford the payment, just sell it,
Yeah.
cash out on your equity and buy another house.
Yeah,
or
but
do
my
something with it.
argument is, why would you foreclose? First off, banks don't want to foreclose, correct? They want to find an alternate route. They don't want to just say, hey, we're going to put a foreclosure on you, right?
Because foreclosure, I stop at the point where we do the foreclosure and the eviction. My understanding is that once the foreclosure process is expensive. I know that. I've seen my bills. I've seen how
Look
much
at
it
this
costs.
guy's.
I've seen my
tires.
bills. I've seen one of my bills.
I've seen my bills.
I've seen my
But
invoices.
my understanding is so if the property sells to a third party, you're great. It's good. But if the party if it ends up reverting
Explain that
back-
part of it. I don't, because the
Okay,
people
so
want to
you-
know what that means.
So you go to foreclosure sale,
Right.
and it goes up to public auction, and there's a minimum bid. And if whoever is the highest bidder at the public auction gets the property, but if there's no bidder, it reverts back to the beneficiary of the deed of trust and the
Sure.
note holder. So then they're not in the real estate. They're a company. They don't have a family to put in a home, so they have to sell the home. So they have to go fix it up, make it marketable, which in my understanding costs tens of thousands of dollars. Now, I don't know this
Who,
personally.
the bank?
The bank, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they put the property up for sale.
Yeah, they take a far greater loss.
Right, it's very
And-
expensive to foreclose.
And
A lot of
they
different things
don't.
they have to
They
deal
don't
with
go.
then.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but just make a point. They don't go through a regular escrow. They're just selling it, so there's
Yeah.
always a discount because you're selling as
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Right, it's called REO. If you've ever heard
Yep,
that term,
of
real
course.
estate owned property.
What is that? Real estate owned property.
Real
It means
Okay.
that they actually own the property now outright. It's gone through all the channels and they've taken the back
Right,
the
and,
property.
and they don't want to keep the property because they're not property managers. Like,
Correct.
I know
they're in the bank. They're
Right.
in the business of lending, not real estate.
correct, but they do have property managers. That
Yeah,
that
they
manage the
do,
property.
because
So
it's-
take me
it's
through the
part of their
process
business.
of your daily work. Like who do you represent mostly? Like how does your process work when you're calling or when you're going through a process of, say, a case? Like what do you deal with? Like do you have any stories that people have gone through recently?
Oh, so which type? Do you want to talk about foreclosure cases?
Let's talk about foreclosures. We've been talking about
I've
it.
had the Lake Tahoe property cases before where somebody was very sophisticated. He wasn't even a lawyer.
So what benefits somebody to keep the? I mean, obviously it's the system, but technically they're still going to at one point they're going to get out of that property. They're going to be forced to leave.
Sometimes
right?
a lot of people don't think that far ahead, man.
No,
Or
they
don't
do.
care.
They do.
No, they
The
do
real
if they're doing
reason, some
this.
people are very clever. They delay the foreclosure process to see if the property values go up. And then if the property value goes up,
So there's a strategic plan.
There's a strategic
now,
plan
what if
to
the
it.
servicer finds that out and let's say that goes to court? I mean, is there something that
If they know the system very well, and that's the thing. If you know a system and you know exactly when to do what,
so that's
can play that
that's going
system
on
for a
right?
long
so right now,
time.
right now
A
you're
long
saying
time.
that there's people just like that, not just the property that you're talking about, but there's other people that are staying in their home to strategically try to build up the equity in the house and then keep the house
yeah,
ultimately. And then
that's
sell
right.
it.
Yeah.
The problem is you run into interest upon interest where it becomes that's very hard. So if you have a smaller loan, that's doable. But if you have a loan where it's like a $500,000 loan that's worth $1 million, the house will never catch up to that. So it just depends on certain properties. So some people are very strategic about it. Some people just don't want to pay rent. They see it's 2 months or 2 years of rent-free living. And
So-
they save up the money and then move. And then when
Yep.
the time
What-
leaves, they leave.
let's say this. So we're out trying to connect with the average the
Mm-hmm.
person out there, right? The consumer, right? It's a lot of people that when they do this strategic stuff, it's a one-off, or it's probably not a lot of people that go through that process. So if you're out there and you're saying, okay, well, what are the percentage of people that are actually putting themselves in a position to foreclose, or you know what I mean? Like
Not a lot.
Not a
Well,
lot.
probably
Not
Right?
right
not.
now, because right now
Yeah.
the properties have so much equity,
Yeah.
and nobody wants to get their credit shot. If you're at the point where, oh shoot, I can't make my
Yeah.
monthly payments, you sell your property.
and people have something invested of their own dime
Yeah.
into now, so they
90
don't want to.
Well, I doubt.
99%
Yeah.
of people don't understand anything about the legal process.
and that's the thing. Like most people aren't, even all the ones in a situation like that. That's not a most case scenario.
And what I'm talking about, I mean, what are you doing? You heard the term playing the system?
Yeah.
This is playing the system.
Yeah.
These laws were designed to try to help people who were hurting.
But there's loopholes
but
in
they don't-
everything.
But those people aren't sophisticated.
Yeah.
I guess the smarter ones.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some of them are just not smart and simply have figured out that if they don't pay, somehow they stay in their house, right?
Yeah.
Others real like, oh, I can play the system, right? For instance, you talk about bad credit, right?
Yeah.
And I think, well, potentially, what if you funded an LLC, right? And that way, a bank would loan to this LLC,
Mm-hmm.
and then if you default, that ain't your personal credit, right? That's the
Yeah,
LLC's
that's the
credit,
LLC.
and you meanwhile you're living in the house, so you have both benefits.
But
Yeah.
there's,
If you wanna
there's a
be-
caveat to that, though. A lot of the LLCs that they make you sign a personal guarantee.
Yeah, but that's
So
what I'm saying.
that's-
You'd
there's a
have to-
risk of that.
You'd have to well fund it, but there are potential ways of like handling that. I'll get your dying uncle to sign the personal guarantee.
Joe, let's talk after the show.
And I'm not here to preach to you about what's right or wrong, right? But the reality is you can take advantage of the system. The reality is
look,
a lot of judges don't know what's going on, and if you
let's talk about the average person too out there a little bit. Where so I've had people that have come to me and said, you know what, I want to be on a forbearance program, or I want to be on I want to be in a position where I can keep my house. What programs do they have out there, and how does that affect people? Because I think it's not just about foreclosure. We're talking about a small part. I don't feel like foreclosures are going to be, and this is my opinion, an issue whatsoever moving forward.
They're not,
because people are not going to walk away from their house with equity.
Yeah, but I think the point is too, like, what are the consequences? We keep talking about, you talked about last week, right? Talk about, I'm afraid to buy a house because what if the market crashes or whatever. So I'm talking about what that process would look like. What when the rubber meets the road, what you're looking at if you're in a disastrous situation. Right, so I think that is valuable to people listening.
But I think that you look at the situation of foreclosures previously, like he's been talking about, it was contributed to bad loans, right? It was contributed to people that were going into houses that they couldn't afford.
So the info is great, just more applied to back then versus now.
Correct. It's more like, hey, we're talking about a market. So what I'm looking at is, yes, foreclosures will be here. It won't be the same number. We won't have the same crisis that we had. But there is still people that weren't paying their mortgage. Right, and what is the options that they have out there? Because I know a lot of people that do forbearance, they do loan modification. So what happens with them?
So basically, if you can't make your mortgage payment, the first thing I would do is I would contact the loan servicer and say, I need help. What can you help me? Can you give me a forbearance? I'm out of work. My new job doesn't start for a month or two. What can I do? And often they'll give you a forbearance. They might make you pay it later or tack it onto the end of the loan.
If you're just forthcoming and you contact and reach out to them, they're far more receptive of working with you by just reaching out to them.
Yes. Then if you after that,
can I ask you a quick question about that? The forbearance, does that affect your credit if you request that?
You know what? I do know a lot about credit reporting because I've done a lot of FCRA litigation. I'm not sure the answer to that question. It depends. I think they put blanks in for those months. I don't think they put them in.
Yeah, but that's something you could ask them too, right? When you ask.
Yeah, I can find that question. If you ever let me come back, you want me to talk about credit reporting? I'd love to talk about that.
Well, I want to ask you a question, man. Are you a Rebels fan? Did you go to UNLV?
Yeah, I went to UNLV Law, and I know that Joe went to UNR. Which I'm not allowed to call UNR.
University of
Nevada.
Nevada.
I worried this as my protest.
You're doing that to piss him off.
To let him know what's up. Right?
I don't need to wear anything. How did the last two?
Listen, here's why it is, man. It's like
lawyer wars.
Yeah, well, when you show up, it's they're looking at each other like it's a stare off over here. Because I'm surprised you guys are sitting next to each other.
I'll see you in court.
The funny thing,
I haven't killed him yet.
The funny thing is, I'm a Rams fan and he's a Niners fan, and there's like a daily text war between me and him about how the Rams and the Niners are doing.
You're a Rams fan?
I'm a Rams fan.
How did you become a Rams fan?
I'm from Orange County, man.
He's a Rams fan.
I know.
Okay, so we'll get back to foreclosure in a second, but a little context here. Ramey used to be a apparently diehard 49ers fan for like how many years, Ramey?
Well, when the Rams moved out of LA, so about 20 years.
And then all of a sudden now he hates the 49ers.
Well,
it's like Bernie, like who does this? This flips like this.
The smart people.
He's a little bipolar.
49ers need to start winning.
Hey,
did I say that? I'm sorry. They can't all be Green Bay Packers.
I understand the record.
Go
500. Pack. We're going to the playoffs. We're going to knock off the Rams.
Speaking of playoffs, Green Bay Packers are going. Anyways.
So,
you're a Packers fan.
So
every year.
Back to the original question.
Back to business.
All right. So you call your bank. If your bank isn't willing to help you, which generally that used to be the case, that's not the case anymore. Now they've got so many programs.
Yeah.
I don't even know what all the programs are. Then you have two options. You can petition for foreclosure mediation if you get the notice of default, or you can file for bankruptcy. And there's a mediation process in the bankruptcy as well. Now, what are the advantages and disadvantages? The advantage of bankruptcy is it puts all your loans, all your debt into one place in the bankruptcy court. And then it depends on what chapter you file, whether you file a chapter 7 or 13. I'm not going to go to 11, that's complicated. But you put everything into like this pot of debt that you can work out with the court. Or you can petition for foreclosure mediation, but then your only debt that you're worried about there is your mortgage debt. But either way, the point is you're buying yourself time to work out a resolution with your lender. And those resolutions often include one of three. I call it a smorgasbord. There's three things that include. One is you get a loan modification. Now, may I just talk quickly about what loan modifications are? Is that okay?
Well, let's talk about this. So give me an example of when somebody that you've dealt with recently that's gone through a let's say forbearance or loan modification, because they want to know like the process. I mean,
Sure.
When we're talking about it, it's I understand from a consumer, because I'm trying to relate. Like if I'm out there and I'm not in the lending business or I'm not in real estate, then what is the path that I go through, and tell me some experiences so I can relate to what you're talking about.
Okay, so loan modification. If you're applying for a loan modification, there's a form that's called a request for mediation, mortgage assistance. It's called an RMA form. That's very typical. It asks you a lot of questions. It asks you for your personal information. It asks you about your income, your dependents.
What money do you have?
Your other debts.
Like a regular application.
And it tries
Yeah,
to figure
yeah.
out your debt to income ratio, right? So, and I think the magic number is between 27 and 33%
Yeah.
of your mortgage. So if your mortgage payment is between 27 and 33%, you've hit the sweet spot. If it's lower than that, then it's like you should be able to pay your mortgage.
Yeah.
What's their problem? If it's more than that, then you're setting themselves up for an unaffordable payment.
And I think so. Yeah, so it's basically like a new application for a loan mod. It's kind of similar to your application for the mortgage. But I think Dan, if you're talking about how does the average person relate who doesn't understand any sort of like,
Yeah, I mean, it's like this. If I'm sitting here and I'm listening to this, I'm like, well, I
So
understand.
again-
Like it's more of attorney
so again-
jargon. You know what I mean? For
so
the most
again,
part, but it's
here's-
just how do I get involved? How does it affect
so
me?
here's the point that for the person who doesn't understand any of this, which I don't expect most to.
Whose phone is that?
It's not mine. Is that if you get into a situation where you can't make the mortgage, the point is this: one, you can contact your lender and work things out. Two, if you're confused about all that technical stuff, you can call an attorney like me, who can lay out game plans
Yeah.
to figure out a situation that can keep you out of the shithole for at least a year, probably more,
Right.
while you work this out.
So
that's what the late
on
needs
average,
to
what's it
understand.
cost to hire an attorney to file you for bankruptcy? That's like actually going to do something, not just I did the form, but they're actually going to
For bankruptcy?
Yeah, for bankruptcy.
Well, bankruptcy, they take a piece of
It depends on the chapter too.
So the attorneys take a piece of it.
piece of the debt that's getting satisfied.
Okay.
Right, because they have to apply, and actually their attorney's fees have to be approved by the court.
So here's
Really? Okay.
something I'm going to at least attempt to change the direction of what we're talking about, and hopefully relate to people that are listening that want to invest. So back, you started in 2013, so there's a couple of things here between 2013 and today, and where you see foreclosures going. That's one question. Where do you see foreclosures going? And number two is, do you see that it's going to be easier or more opportunity for people to invest that want to invest in foreclosures or those types of situations?
Invest in foreclosures. What do you mean?
Buy the foreclosures either on the steps, from the banks, to be able to pick up deals.
So to clarify the topic, investing in real estate but picking up titles through
Yeah,
foreclosures.
so from 2013 to now, and where you see foreclosures going, what opportunities do you see for people that may be listening in order to pick up deals in the market?
I can tell you this. I am seeing a lot of the soft problems that happened right before the 2008 crash. I think right now there's forbearance. There's pretty much a federal forbearance on foreclosures is about to be lifted in the new year. You also have the student loan debt coming back, where people are going to have to start paying their student loans back. And now with rising inflation, I think that there is going to be a significant increase of foreclosures next year. I don't know how that's going to affect the market. That's not my expertise, but I can't. Maybe somebody
No,
else
what's your
knows.
opinion? What's your opinion on it?
Yeah.
What do you think is going to happen?
I think there will be a lot more foreclosures. I think the
But
housing
what
market
about-
will slow down, if not go down.
But what about everyone that has all that equity in their
aren't
house?
they going to be selling?
Oh, that's me.
So
That's all
Hey,
of us.
it's fine. He has his
But
opinion.
it's
no,
It's
I.
fine.
But I, and that is completely correct, and I agree with you. But the only thing I counter that with, that I keep on coming back to, which is that there's so much equity in these homes that even if people start down that road, they're able to cure it before it gets.
Okay, so here's
But isn't supply and demand-
here's the reality of it. And,
But there's less than a month of homes on the market.
So just a second. Here's the reality of it. You get. Let's do what's common: husband and wife situation, partner situation,
Yeah.
life partner situation, and there's a falling out. I can see people just walking away from it, and then they're going to end up in foreclosure. Is it going to be a high percentage? No. But is it going to be a percentage that's going to walk away from the equity? Yeah, I think there is.
Let me ask you guys this question though: wouldn't servicers it benefits them more to not foreclose? So they're going to figure out if they've come up with so many programs and alternate routes to not
Well,
foreclose.
they didn't come up with it.
The government did, right? But
Well, that's
Without much input from them, by the way.
right.
Yeah.
But I mean, wouldn't you think that their goal is not to foreclose? Like when we had 2007-8 foreclosures, it really wiped out our economy.
Well,
really, I mean, because the housing market's 1/3 of our economy. You know what I mean, as a whole.
yeah. So Dan, but back in 2008, right? You had the fair market value of the properties decreased by like half, right? So if you were foreclosing, if you took out a loan for 300,000, drops to 150, the bank can only collect on collateral for 150. That's going to be discounted to like 100. Meanwhile, the 200,000 principal they just eat it, right? So in today's market, we're probably not seeing a lot of foreclosures, Ramey. And I would see if there is a foreclosure, that means the owner like went crazy or died or something.
Like,
right?
they had to do that on purpose.
Yeah, because you could just always sell your house and
Yeah.
satisfy the loan with the equity, right?
That's what I'm saying.
And
is
so
people are
right
gonna
now, the banks that are foreclosing, they're like, well, I'm still making my principal back because if you took a loan out 2 years ago, it's probably went up by 200,000. So their collateral should be able to satisfy the principal. Now they're eating all the extra interest they could get otherwise. That's why they're not motivated because that's how they make their money is through interest payments. So they're not making a profit off of that.
But they're not losing.
Yeah, but they're not losing like they
Right.
did back in 10. So it's a little bit different. I guess if we're talking about a situation where foreclosures happen a lot, you would need the real estate market to also decrease
And
because
that's
your
not gonna
solution
happen.
is just to sell the house if you can't pay your mortgage. The only way you couldn't do that is you don't have enough equity that couldn't cover
Yeah.
it, right? So I
So that's
think
what I'm saying.
those
Is like
two things need to happen.
It would have to
Real
be an
estate-
intentional move to get
the,
foreclosed.
the real estate market needs to decrease and foreclosures need to.
Well,
need to
that I mean, if the market decreased, then obviously yes,
Hold
that
on,
would. I
hold
just
on.
don't see it.
Remy, what is your thoughts? Why do you think that the market's going to have a high amount of foreclosures? Where do you come up with that?
I'm not an economist. I'm not
I know.
an expert.
I know.
Just my experience on what happened with the fast foreclosure crisis. When you got a lot of people, when you got a lot of money out there, the COVID money's drying up. People have to start repaying their student loans. Inflation and pressures.
That's a good point.
Wages aren't catching up. I see a perfect storm here, and we're overdue for a recession. I see a perfect storm come. Now, is it going to be as bad as 2008? God, I hope not. I don't think so, but I'm not an economic expert.
I do agree with
but
you.
I see some of the
Yeah.
same conditions that I saw back then now. And
I
that scares
do
me.
agree with you with the inflation, and we're due for a recession.
But what if
100% on
see,
that.
this is
Yeah.
if we
Just because we all know history.
do we all agree that there's like kind of an inflation problem right now?
100%.
Not
I mean,
crazy.
that to me, I think is going to be the most unknown factor that's going to come into play.
So the way I kind of see this, though, if you want my 2 cents, is Biden comes in, he makes a promise to like kind of try to get rid of student loans, right? But he can't because of inflationary problems. So you're talking about the point student loans are coming back in, student loans and the lift on forbearance of foreclosure, right? Well, that's a way to take money out of the system, which is why they're letting it go forward because now that should help with the inflationary problem. So does that make us more unstable or less unstable? You know what I'm saying?
I think it would make the economy more unstable, right?
But isn't the cure to inflation to take money out? Which is
would
kind of
it
what-
be to raise interest rates? But if you raise interest rates,
Well,
then
that's
gonna
one
blow
way.
out more.
That's
That's going
wha-
to make people more expensive for
Keynesian.
Well, that's one way of doing it. Well, guess what? Keynesian theory is how this government's run, right?
I understand that, but that's the problem. That it's
Okay,
that's the
so
root of it all.
listen. Let's go back to it.
Okay, I think your
There's
question, Dan, was I'm
the
sorry, go on.
benefit from the investor or the bank would be that there's a ton of equity in the property.
Correct.
Now, with all these programs and things that's going on with what happened with the pandemic, why would you think that there would be more foreclosures? I know you said, well, inflation's going to be higher, rates are going to potentially go up, but you got to look at it and say, well, if there's programs and if people have equity and loans aren't being written poorly, right? We don't have people getting into adjustable rate mortgages. We don't have people that are getting into houses that are 3 times the amount of what their income is. I don't see why. We might have. Everybody always wants to bring up recession, bubble, and we may be in a bubble, right? But is it going to be a recession or is it going to be a reset where we maybe come down a little bit and just have the market naturally depreciate, maybe a certain percentage? I don't think we're going to crash, and I think that's where you're coming in.
I didn't say there was. I'm correction. I don't think there's going to be a crash, but what I do think is going to happen is you're going to have more foreclosures because people are not gonna be able to afford what a house, but they can't afford to pay $50, $60, $100 at the pump and pay for their housing mortgage. And the other thing is you've had foreclosures basically at zero or close to zero for almost 2 years now.
Yeah.
It's just going to go up naturally.
But wouldn't the average person already be affected by that? Meaning, let me go back to this. So I know people. I have not just relatives. I've helped people with loan modifications and foreclosures as far as the servicing side of it. And a lot of times they come back and they say, okay, here's your plan. This is what we got for you. You're going to be on a third, maybe an extended loan period. We're going to reduce your payment so you can afford it. It just seems that, and there's a ton of equity. And then what they did is they said, okay, for that period of time, we're going to just put that at the back end of the loan. So your loan goes up. I'm not saying that, foreclosures aren't going to happen, but all of us are affected by inflation and interest rates increase. Why would that be any different if there is programs like this with this loan modification or forbearance that people have been on versus, I'm just saying for future, you know what I mean? Why
because
would
even if you get put on a loan modification program, you still have to have a payment which you can afford to make, right? If let's say I have a $2,000 a month payment and my income was $6,000, but now my bill and my income was $6,000, I have a $2,000 a month payment. Okay, that's 1/3 of your income. But before I was paying $2,000 in household expenses. Now I'm paying $3,000 in household expenses or more. When you see the shrinking gap between what you earn and what you have to pay, I can say people saying, I got to feed my kids or I got to pay my mortgage. I got to drive to work or I got to pay my mortgage. And that's when I think you're going to see the clash happen.
So you would think that there would be more of a bankruptcy situation, right? Where it's like if you had, let's say that if people were in that position and they just can't do anything, you would have a high influx of people coming in with bankruptcy.
That's correct. But the problem with bankruptcy is it's the financial death penalty, right? Once you declare for bankruptcy, you are basically can't get credit for years.
But
right, and that makes your life it makes your life hell to go through bankruptcy.
Bankruptcy doesn't solve the problem that you just laid out.
But the average person out there thinks it does. That's the thing. It's pitched
but it doesn't, because inflation is what he's talking about, is eating up. And so you can't bankrupt away inflation and how much you're having to pay at the grocery store and at the gas station and for everything else. You can't, bankruptcy doesn't do anything about that.
And so it's like I kind of have said in the past, which is 40% of all the money that's been printed in the United States has been printed in the last 2 years. You can't just print in excess of that amount of money and just say, oh, well, it's going to have no impact anywhere. It's just, we'll just throw it into the system. And
which is exactly why, by the way, the Democrat-owned federal government is not extending foreclosure stays and is making student loan payments capping and is hinted on raising the interest rate. This thing's overheated. We're talking about recession, right? It's overheated, and we're trying to cool it down.
But it all ties into what he's saying. Look, what I'm trying to say is that if you're looking at this market and you're saying that the rates are going up, inflation's going up, you would think that, I'm not saying that everybody thinks bankruptcy is the way to go, but you would think that there would be more people in a position where they're in dire need. They need help. You know what I mean? And I don't know if you're seeing that, but I don't see a high number of people that are going in like, oh my gosh, I'm in just a terrible position. We all know costs of things are going up. The sticker price of things skyrocketing. We know that. Inflation, I think, is up over 6%.
At this point, other than people bitching about it, it's not really.
It's not a real thing.
It's not having too much
impact.
impact.
It's a real thing, but it's not a real thing.
So far, I'm not saying it's not going to. But
so let's tie it back into what he's saying. So let's go back to his situation. So with inflation and interest rates, and I'm just curious, and then the higher cost of living, how would you think that would actually determine or position somebody to say, you know what, I can't afford my payment now? Because banks seem like they're I mean, you're in it. They seem like they're willing to work with you, right? Right.
They're willing to work with you because they want to have a solution to the problem. They don't want to be foreclosing the property. Their investors want to get paid. The loan servicer's client is the beneficiary, the investor who owns the loan. They want to get paid, right? They don't want to foreclose on the property. They want to get paid because they want to get paid over a period of years, and that makes the loan more valuable, and they can transfer the loan in the loan market. What I'm seeing, and that concerns me, is we're seeing the same patterns we saw in 2008, where it's going to get to the point where people are going to have to make a choice between paying gas and paying for bills, or paying for their home mortgage.
Yeah, but don't you think it's a little different? I'm not trying to combat that.
You can slow the process down,
right?
But at the end of the day, if you can't afford to make a loan if your loan modification payment goes from $2,100 to $1,800, Okay, maybe for some people that makes a difference, but if that $300 isn't gonna help you out, then all you've done is stalled the process a little bit.
Well, I look at it as, you if you have equity, right, and you're not underwater by 150% on your house, which that's what was happening. Why would you walk away from it though? Like, why wouldn't you seek out any alternative to get it done?
Well, here's the thing. So the easy answer is, well, then if you have equity, you could just sell it and that takes care of that problem. But then the problem is, what do you do now? Because you're not going to find that same house. Yes, you're not going to find that same house for the same mortgage. I mean,
Rick, let me ask
that's
you
a whole nother.
Let me ask you a question. When you evict people, the management company, what's that do to their credit?
For the most, well, it depends. The only thing that it really affects is trying to get into a new rental.
Does it affect their credit score?
I would imagine slightly. Okay, but it's not
Like a foreclosure.
Not like it
no,
was.
it's not,
Yeah.
or it's not like not paying your credit card bills and so on and so forth.
You're not in default.
It's totally different. Yeah, you're not in default. Again, the only thing that it really affects is you trying to get into the next place, and assuming that it shows up on your credit quick enough, which is another situation. You could have trouble going through what I'll call, property management companies, because that's really taboo. Those people end up having to find an individual investor who doesn't have the resources to do the background checks. They get into a place, they stay there for several years, and eventually the eviction falls off their credit and they're right back to where they were.
So what about what's the average person's credit look like that's getting evicted though? Just curious. You have any idea?
I could tell you what the average credit looks like for a person who goes through bankruptcy and foreclosure.
Yeah, I imagine.
I don't know about it.
What's that look
I
like?
would imagine
Terrible.
Yeah.
I imagine not good.
So here's
Really?
Wait a second. So the reason that it's difficult to answer your question, because think about how this happens. When the person moves into the property, and when they buy the home, their credit is good, and something happens over the course of time to change that. If their credit goes bad, they get foreclosed on or they get evicted. Those people aren't then looking at their credit to see, I wonder what happened over the past 2 years.
Where did I go wrong?
And the point I keep trying to come back to, though, right? It's because, like, Dan, we've talked about this repeatedly on the show, is what about that fear about buying a house? Because what happens in the real estate market, right? But you got to live somewhere, so you're comparing the two, right? And it just seems in my mind that worst-case scenario seems a lot better, although crappy, if you own the home versus if you're renting. That's just like kind of what it seems like. So if you're afraid, well, where are you going to live?
Well,
if you're forking out the same rental payment.
First of all, the answer to the question is, yeah, it could be. And if you're talking about here in Vegas, it's potentially better to rent than it is to buy because of the diversity in the average mortgage payment for a house and the average rental price. They're actually in Vegas, there's quite a spread. So if you're in another area of the country, and I just happened to bring the figures today.
Let's get in the figures.
But anyway.
So look, let's kind of go back to, because we brought him on. I want to ask a few more questions. So what are some of the stories? Do you have any stories that somebody's gone through? Look, like I said, I have sister, I have family that's gone through stuff where they needed to have a loan modification or they went through it. Terrible experience. I'm going to tell you. So it's they don't really have all their ducks in a row. They wanted to come off of it right away, and they didn't let them come off of it. I mean, to me, it comes down to the servicer and what is the servicer's agreement and how they work with you. Do you come in on that part of it?
Yeah, so this is what I would recommend. If you want to get a loan modification, I'll use stories. The people who are successful in loan modifications are the people who fill out the forms, provide all the information that's required, submit it, and then if additional and then often they'll ask you for additional documents. Submit everything you can in a timely fashion. You do that. And also one more important thing. You got to have an affordable house payment. Like, they will not give you a loan modification for a payment that is higher than what your previous payment was.
Really?
They won't, because if you can't afford your previous payment, you can't
how
afford
are you
your
gonna?
current
Yeah,
payment.
that makes sense.
I understand, but
So if your income, if you were making,
well, but think about it. A servicer,
Not rocket science.
the purpose of that is so they can get somebody into
For some it is.
a lower payment to stay in the house, right? So obviously what they're trying to do is lower the payment, right?
Yeah.
So I agree. I mean,
So my point is this:
So I can.
if you want,
Rick, do you agree?
if you
I
want,
concur.
if you want a loan modification, I would hire. If you're going through foreclosure process, I agree with Joe. Hire a lawyer because there's some really good firms in town here who know what they're doing and who know how to get through the
Okay.
process.
PLLC.
And then,
There you go.
But if you don't want to hire a lawyer and do it yourself,
Do you know other?
I would make sure that you follow the steps, that you're in communication with your lender or your loan servicer, and make sure that you follow through with what you do. And if you qualify, they will offer you a loan modification. Not every time, but the majority of the vast majority of the time.
Okay, so we got that covered. I have an interesting question for you because you were talking about these percentages. If you fall within this percentage, you're going to get it. If you are outside of this percentage, you're not going to get it. What is the percentage, if there is one, of people that on their paperwork skew it? They forget about this one and they forget about that one, or they add in a Penny's bill or they add in a Macy's bill that they don't really have that's on the paperwork on the application in order to fit within that. Yeah, you're perfect for us to do a loan modification. How are they checking on them? Do they actually look at and check everything that's on those applications?
Oh yes, they go through it very thoroughly. They have so what happens is it goes to your so there's something called the single point of contact here in Nevada, and I think it's a federal law as well, where if you're in the default process, there's a single person that you can contact at the loan servicer, because we all remember back in the day you would call and you would talk to 12 different people who gave you 12 different
And then he'd
opinions.
start over again the next day.
Correct. So it's called. So if you hear the term Spock,
The good old
it's not
days.
the guy with the pointy ears or the baby doctor.
Yeah.
Spock means single point of contact. What happens is you talk to your single point of contact, they give you the documents you need, and then it goes to an underwriter.
Mm-hmm.
And the underwriter is the one who takes a look at everything, see if it's within the formula.
And you know what underwriters do? It's their job to check every little box.
And
That's
Rick,
correct.
That's literally their job.
You know, I mean, the bank is not legally obligated to give you a loan mod, right?
No.
So it's not like if you hit the
No, they're
certain
not.
box, they have to do it. It's
So
their
you know,
decision.
and you know what they used
All
to
right.
do back in the short
That's
sale
an
days in
excellent
2012,
point.
2013. They would say,
So
"Oh yeah, we'll give
fake
you a
it,
loan
sign
mod,
alert.
Right.
and then your payment would be like $5 cheaper."
Back
Back into that, it was crazy.
before
dude.
08.
Brett, that's $5 savings.
But you know what happened?
Just,
you know what happened in that
dude,
time?
it was like people, because we would get,
You wanna
they
go
would
out
short
to-
sale their property. They would come to us and be like, dude, we tried to do a loan mod, and the bank literally came back $5 cheaper.
You know what they used to-
But Brett, let's be fair. In the amount of time that you did the application for the loan mod, a year could have passed, year and a half
Yeah.
passed, and your job situation changed.
yeah,
You're making
yeah.
more money now.
Yeah.
So you benefit. You got 18 months where you basically
Yeah.
got an extended
Which is the
forbearance and you
point
got
I
a new loan.
keep trying to make.
So it's a lot different now,
Stall it,
yes.
and you
but
can stall
back
it.
then it was like,
Well, their slogan was, "I got 5 on it," right? Like that song.
it was just like, dude, can you imagine? You go through all this and they're like $5 cheaper. It's like, that's why people just said F you to the
Brett,
banks.
Brett, you've heard that song, right?
I mean,
Have you
because-
heard that song, Brett? I got 5 on it.
Yeah, I got 5 on it, bro.
Brett, can I make a point?
Yeah.
I tell this all the time. Look, at some point you got to walk away.
Yeah.
If the asset is toxic, if it's upside
Mm-hmm.
down, if the upside down, you staying in the property for a longer period of time, you may get the short benefit of the free rent, but
Yeah.
over time it's going to be very difficult for you
Agreed.
to get back in the housing
100%
market.
agreed on that. Yeah. Just
And
just
this-
get it over
and-
with.
And, and
you know?
my point is this, and this is the exact same mentality. If you have an employee that isn't working out, the sooner you cut that employee
Yep.
off, the sooner they can get into an industry or into a job where it is going to work for
Yeah.
them. And the same thing with the house. If you're upside down in it, it's better, in my opinion, to get out of it now so that you can get into
yeah.
something that you can afford
Well,
and it's going to work
And
for
I want to
you.
be clear.
And
I wanna be-
absolutely.
sorry, go ahead, Joe.
Well, it's absolutely, especially in today's market, was another point. Like, you shouldn't be foreclosed on because your house can. Let's say you have a $700,000 house. You got $200,000 equity. You can't make the mortgage. Just call up the bank. They're not going to deal you. Like, look, I'm going to set this for sale. Back off. Like, all right, fine.
Yeah.
And then you sell it, and then you buy a $400,000 house. Right? Is your life really over?
Are there $400,000 houses?
Yes.
Yeah, still 500.
Hey,
whatever.
we're gonna get into that. in a
if you're
second
paying
here.
cash and over list.
But I want to make a point here. This is a good point. This is a real world application. If you're talking about your credit hit, the worst thing you could probably have is a bankruptcy. The next worst thing you can have is a foreclosure, and probably the least worst thing of the options is the short sale option. So my opinion is, if you know you can't afford it, I would try to short sell it because that takes the least. It's still bad
Okay.
hit on your
Yeah, but
credit.
you can't
So-
short sale it if you have equity in the
Yeah.
property, right?
No. If you have equity in the problem, this is an academic discussion.
you
Sell the
wouldn't-
house.
you wouldn't-
Come on,
yeah.
yeah.
We're talking
Yeah, I'm
about.
talking about people who are underwater or who are in a and by the
If
way,
we get in that situation again, yeah.
by the way, if you
Which
have
no
if,
one should be in for this moment.
If you have a
because I promise
$500,000
you, it's worth more than what you.
If
paid
you have a
for it.
$500,000 home and you're behind, and you have $600,000 is the value, that's $100,000. Remember, a lot of that gets eaten up in the real estate costs because you guys are real estate, so you have to sell the house, real estate house. And I guarantee you, there's probably going to be other liens on the property. There's probably going to be a trash lien or an HOA lien, and those things need to be cured.
And you know what? We also talked about HOAs doing HOA foreclosures. You know,
That's a different.
Which that's-
So
I
let's
was
go ahead and open up that can.
I
of
was
worms.
in
Yeah,
the
but they
trenches
can't-
on that one. I can talk about all day about that one.
Yeah,
They
no,
can't move.
let's not
They
get
can't
into
move about it
Let's
the
not
way
get
they
into
used
that.
to.
Both of us were in the trenches side by side.
So,
Insane.
Dude, I was.
So I have a different take on what Ramey said about bankruptcy, because I used to do personal loans for years and years and years with the largest company in the country, and we looked at bankruptcy just the opposite. Because here's the deal: once you bankruptcy and you've gotten rid of all the creditors and so on and so forth, guess what? You can't go bankrupt again for what is it, 7 years?
That's correct.
So you can go out and buy a new car. If you've got money down, they know that you can't go bankrupt
and I
on
don't
them.
disagree, but I think it depends on who you're talking about. If you got in a bad situation just because you're down on your chips, right? But you're a reasonable person, you know how to manage.
All
money.
I'm trying to say is
Right.
it's not the end of the world.
Right, then I'd say go bankruptcy. But if you have money control habit problems, then it might not be the best.
Well, look,
solution.
let's go back. Remy, when's the last time you've had somebody? What's your last person you work with? Tell me a story that you've actually helped somebody with.
Well,
in a situation like that.
so
2013.
no.
I
Okay,
concur.
so, look,
I agree.
Let me put it this way: the last mediation I did, the borrower had put us through mediation before, and it actually they had already failed on a loan modification before. So
How do you fail on a loan
you
modification?
don't pay it.
Yeah.
I mean, so that means like, is this strategic again? Where it's like, okay,
No.
I want a loan mod, and then it's like something else happened, and then just life went crazy.
Some people in life just take out loans that they can't pay back, and then they get a second chance, and they still don't pay the second chance.
That's the American way, though.
But
God bless
I'll
it.
tell you, if you're a person who was a distressed homeowner, you had a bad luck situation happen where you lost your job, somebody in the family got sick, you have a bill that you had to pay that superseded the foreclosure bill, the mediation. I mean, sorry, the house payment. Then you go apply for loan modification. As long as you make the general income, as long as the payment is less than it was before, you might even get a better interest rate. You'll probably qualify for a loan modification.
So look, I see a lot of people's credit. So I'm not going to get in people's names are out there, but you see a lot of people. You see a lot of people's credit, right?
Yeah.
And so, do you feel like Americans in general overextend the amount of credit that they get?
The people I go against, yes, but I don't know in general about America.
He has a job because of it, so there
Yeah.
answers
You're
your
right.
question.
So, yes, there's people who do.
So,
yeah.
what is the number of trade lines? Like, I don't know if anybody knows what a trade
Well,
line is.
Dan,
but
listen.
I want to know.
Let me
like,
just say this.
what's
How many
the-
trade lines? I count.
Has it been over
Dude.
50?
Oh, dude,
Wow. So that
Dude, that's elementary in his business.
see, I'm my firm.
Can you imagine?
In the last few
50
years,
trade lines?
in the last few years, I've built up a practice of defending Fair Credit Reporting Act cases. So I've seen a lot of trade lines. I know.
So what?
50? Can you imagine, dude?
No, credit report.
here's my
lived
thing.
in other people's credit
So here's
reports.
my thing.
They-
You see 30 of them right there, and you're a bank out there, and you're like, we need to
Dude.
get people to sign up for a credit card or extending credit. Just go ahead and throw it out to them. You know what I mean? Like, they know they're already 30 deep. Let's just see what happens. You know what I mean? Right? I mean,
Well,
So
you
credit,
know they're
when they
receptive.
come into one of these attorneys
To using you.
and they say how much is it going to cost, and they give them the figure and they open up their wallet and it goes. You know,
that's exactly right.
Yeah, try this one. If it doesn't,
Try
let me
this
know.
one.
I think
Yeah,
I
I
got
got
some
another
juice
one.
left on this one.
So, I mean, obviously, you're seeing. So, the last person you dealt with, you were talking about it. They defaulted on loan modification. So, what ended up happening to them?
Well, we're still in the middle of litigation.
Wow.
Mediation, so that. So I let me give you another example. The previous one that I did, we actually did offer them a loan mod, and I think they didn't take it because the loan mod wasn't. A lot of people want principal forgiveness from these loan mods. They're not going to.
That's not going to happen.
No.
I've seen it. I've seen it.
But you're right, because
And when it happens, I'm like,
Dude,
hallelujah!
Dude,
it's a miracle.
they used to push that back and do that. The attorneys
Right.
back in 2000, but that never happened. That was like
Right.
a miracle. But
I,
you're right.
I
They never
literally
do.
will walk into a mediation where there's
They won't do
principal forgiveness,
principal.
and I go, "You've won the lottery. Congratulations."
Yeah, literally, you are winning
do,
the lottery.
Can you do like a loan mod and then a loan mod on top of a loan mod?
No.
No,
No.
But,
Here's
but
the
they
thing.
don't do the
Remember-
principle. People
remember-
need to understand
remember,
that.
To be clear, there's a different.
minute, you can.
And I think this is real. You could do another loan
Later.
mod. Later, but
So how
I've
many
seen a whole
loan
bunch.
mods can you get to? Is it like there's a number? Like once
As
you get
many
to
as they agreed to.
I've seen
The answer
the most I've seen is 2.
many as you
I'm
get
sure
away
there's
with,
people who've been
so.
here 3 or 4. The most I've seen is 2. Loan
is it all
mods.
about the negotiation skills?
No. Because
I mean, look at this guy. He walks in the room.
I want to be clear about loan mods. When they offer you a loan mod, that is their best and final offer for loan mods. There really isn't much room for negotiation because it's
not like
the
buying a car.
underwriter.
Yeah, but what if
the
what if you got a job decrease? Like what if you lost even like let's say
I
like
know you're
you had
APR of that.
two income family and now you're at 1 when you had that loan
Okay,
mod
so-
and now you're like, hey, you know what? Hey, something else happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah, now I'm
just
part
to make
time.
sure
The
so
asset.
so that the listeners understand what happens with a loan mod is everything that you owe gets recapitalized into the loan. You basically, let's say you owe $500,000 on the loan. You get a new loan for $500,000. That's your new principal amount.
Yeah.
What they do
Yeah,
to
you're backing
save,
yourself up back to 30
So what they
years.
do to save you, or they extend it to 40 years because a lot of loan mods are 40 years. So what they do is one of two things.
Half your life.
In order for you to get an affordable payment, they either knock the interest rate
If
down.
you're lucky.
No, they do knock the interest rate down.
No, he's
No,
talking
it's
about
not-
half my
Oh,
life.
No. And it's
Remy
funny.
doesn't have much time left.
No, they do. Because listen, I can attest to what he's saying because I've had family and I've seen people and I've helped people talk with them about it. And they're asking me, hey, can you look at my mortgage? Can you look at the statement? Can you look at the breakdown? A lot of them are putting that balance to the end. They're not going to forgive it.
Right,
They're-
then there's the balloon payment.
and
at
they're
the
lowering
end.
the rates, right? And they're really trying to work out positions to. They want them to stay in the house, though. I mean, the thing about it though is crazy is that when they do these deals, they roll it to the back end. So that those years that you paid that mortgage because you decided, hey, well, you know what, I want to take advantage of this modification. If they keep you on it and they roll it to you're really like renting because now you just put all that equity, the principal balance that you paid down on that loan. They
Well,
just took
I mean,
that
you
and
can
put it
still
towards the
sell
back.
it before that 40 years, dude.
Yeah, but the point is if you sell it and they put it to the back end, what is your earning off that?
Nothing because it's due immediately upon
Exactly.
sale.
Yeah.
So now that the bank wins, not the person that's doing the loan mod, the bank wins.
Well,
bank always wins.
Again,
So-
again, if I'll tell you this,
It's another
if you really
conversation.
want, a lot of people go into these deals because they really want to stay in their home. It's their family home. It's
Yeah.
where their kids.
Yeah,
grow
but
up.
you're
It's where
also
they wanna
buying for what
retire.
reason? You're buying to build equity. You're not buying to pay and rent. If you're going to do that, then go rent. And that's what these banks try to do. I feel that they're saying, yeah, there's a loan modification, but they're also not looking at the big picture. Like, well, okay, well, let's look at
They're
the
looking at terms
escrow.
that are most favorable to them.
Well,
That's how they're looking at it.
They're looking at terms that says, hey, we're going to allow you to do something, but at the end of the day, we're going to put it to the back end of the loan. And guess what?
because they don't really want to lose on their
You go,
loan.
okay, what did your loan start at? Oh, $350. Okay, so how long you been in the house? 3 years. Okay, now what is it when they put to the loan to the back end of it? Oh,
Listen,
it's back
man,
up to $350. There's
you want
there's
them
no
to work
savings.
with you. It's going to cost you.
Well, there's
I mean,
also there's
that's
also
business.
There's also inflation, right? Like you buy a house for if you have a $350 payment, but your house is at the end is worth $700, you've made $350,000 off of it. I think that's the thinking is that by the end the property
not
value
if-
will go up.
Yeah,
so
that's,
much.
that's what I'm saying. So you get the loan mod, another 5 years go
Because-
by,
because
and your
remember-
property is increased.
Because remember that balloon payment may be a non-interest bearing
Right.
balloon payment,
Mm-hmm.
so
But
it stays static.
Yeah.
If you don't want the loan mod, just sell the house because that doesn't make sense. If you're trying to make money, it doesn't make sense to keep upping your principal every 5 years, right? If like Dan says, well, you're trying to make money, well then sell it and make the money.
I
You
would
can't
just sell it.
So I
I don't
have
know.
a-
That's just me.
Oh, I agree with you, but I'm talking. I mean, everybody's different, right? So these are options you have.
New question on the loan modifications. Do they take age into consideration? I mean, putting a 40-year loan.
I don't think they're
on
allowed to.
someone is-
I don't think that's legal to do.
No,
right
no,
now.
no. They
I'm just
listen,
curious.
listen. I've had forbearances and loan mods where they were presented saying that they would do a 40-year loan. I've seen it.
even
And-
for someone 70 years
Yeah.
old.
well, I don't know about the age.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, so you're saying
That's
That's
70
what he
years
said.
old?
Yeah.
And then
Okay, I didn't
First
hear
of
that.
all,
I don't think they can discriminate.
yeah, I don't think it's
Yeah.
legal.
Yeah, it's-
Second of all, they don't care because if you die, either somebody needs to pick up the loan or they're
Correct.
going to foreclose.
That's
Yeah.
not
That's,
also,
that's another issue, by the way.
Or do they require life insurance?
no.
isn't that also a fair credit housing issue? Like you can't just say
Fair housing, yes,
Yeah,
not
you
fair
can't. You
credit.
can't. or fair housing. Sorry, did I say fair credit? Fair housing, because in fair housing, if you got to give a loan to anybody. You can't just say, well, you're 90 years old.
You can't there
And-
can be none of that.
And there's none of that. So I can't see why they would discriminate against
No,
that.
yeah, they don't care, and which is why reverse mortgages became a thing.
The thing
They're
is,
like,
if
oh,
you're-
if you
Good
die,
point.
who cares?
I would
Yeah.
say this: if you're 70
Yeah.
years old, you're probably on a fixed income anyway. I don't see a 70-year-old person getting
Hey,
a
so that
40-year
brings up a
loan.
point, Joe. How many of these people, instead of doing the loan modifications, just freaking turn around and do
A reverse mortgage?
A reverse mortgage.
Well, it depends. You're basically selling your property, right?
Right. I mean, but
And it's basically you get money to sell your property
I understand.
without moving out. So
Yeah.
if you're older and don't give a shit about your kids, say go for it, right? Because
Like Brett.
they won't get the house, right? Yeah,
Yeah, because he has no kids.
yeah. Or if you want to teach them hard,
Keep it that way.
Hey, let's segue. So listen,
By the
anybody
way,
else?
I'm going to make a point about reverse mortgages. They are treated the same way that a regular mortgage would be, and you're entitled to the same process as if you're
There you
so
go.
if you default on a reverse mortgage, you can. I've had reverse mortgages where they elect into foreclosure mediation, but in that case, you don't offer them a loan mod. You offer them a repayment plan over time. Is what you get the back loan.
All right.
Yeah, but if I was 84 and didn't care, like you can take it. Just give me money now. Make
Can't
easy.
take it with me.
I don't feel like moving.
So listen,
Yeah.
let's add value. Anybody else have any questions for Remy over here? Because we've asked a lot of questions and drilled him over here.
Yeah, why do you
and,
have
and why do you do
terrible
what you do? No, I'm just
No, don't.
Terrible taste.
When
It
you're a
was
kid,
kinda
did
by
you dream
accident.
about growing up and being no?
A lawyer, yes, but I thought I'd be like Batlock.
You'd be like,
on
you
TV.
can't handle the truth,
Why?
right? Yeah, like
Who do the Rams play?
what one is that? Tom Cruise in?
The Rams,
Oh, the Rams play the
the Cardinal, the Red Chickens. The
get
Cardinal.
smashed, man.
you know what?
Get
So
smashed like first.
yeah,
I was going to be a doctor if it wasn't for the science and math part.
That's exactly why I became a lawyer. No science, no
The
math.
fact you faint when you see blood.
Yeah, that
You know,
comes
I
into
got
play,
to
too.
tell you, I admire doctors and first responders because lawyers don't get their hands dirty. Lawyers go to court, write
Yeah.
suits. These people who just go.
Hey,
in,
I'm gonna-
and I just admire those
Yeah.
people a lot.
is there a lot? And I'm not going to get off on a topic on this. All right. So, but I think lawyers sometimes don't even go to court. From what I hear, they just kind of
Most of the time they don't.
They don't. Right? Is that true? I mean, do
Well,
you guys
I-
actually go to court ever, or is it?
I've got to go to court on Monday.
I'm a litigator. I'm in bankruptcy court every week.
Well, you're a litigator, though. I
Right.
mean, unless you're
If you
litigation
look at all the
specifically,
attorneys,
Most are
and
just
most of their
researching
time,
in
they're
the
not
office,
court.
right?
What do you mean by court? Do you mean like you don't
Court.
actually go or have
like
a
you get in
physical
front of the
hearing?
judge and you're
Or
pleading your
because
case.
technically every case is in court, but I might not be actually
Physically
writing
showing up.
motions
Physically
and, like,
showing up
talk-
in court.
Well, statistics
Yeah.
shows that Las Vegas is one of the best places to be an attorney. Is that not true?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's not why you set up shop here.
Yeah. Right.
Well, we have.
I had no idea.
We
I
have,
didn't research it, but
we
there was
have
a reason.
it's amazing to me how
You're
many,
damn right.
because we have so many tourists here. There are so many personal injury attorneys in this town.
Well, listen-
people come and they get hurt at the casinos and
And
hotels.
listen, how many people actually are from Vegas? I mean, I know there's some, but we have a lot of people not from Vegas. It's real easy to sue somebody.
I'm
Or
from
it's real
Vegas
easy to
12 years
have-
ago.
What's that?
I'm from Vegas 12 years ago.
I know, but you're still not from here.
12 years ago.
Right. But you know what I'm saying? You got a lot of opportunity where people, when they come here, they're looking to maybe become, like, if they're an attorney, this is like a hot spot. Would you not agree? I mean, is that why?
I started mine in February 2020, right before the big shutdown. I thought it was like, oh crap, I just made the worst decision of my life and it was a rough little few months, but then
Yeah.
after that, just honestly, it hasn't been that difficult to get success in this town, and I think it has a lot to do with it's transient, right?
Well,
so instead
it
of
is.
Because
good old boy towns.
You're a businessman first and an attorney second.
I mean, most of my time
know?
is handling the business.
Yeah.
Right. And a
Exactly,
lot of
that's
attorneys
what I'm saying, yeah.
don't understand that. Like,
This town is still small enough to be a good old boy,
Yeah.
but large enough to where
Yeah,
it
it's in between.
doesn't have to be.
yeah.
And
So I get clients.
You're
kinda-
absolutely right about that, Rick.
I get some.
Yeah, it's good characterization.
I get some clients through the good old boy kind of way, right? Knowing people, and I also get random calls. Places like Reno, you're not going to get random calls.
Would you agree
I don't
that?
think.
Would you agree that people with like a more of a southern draw, or like more of like when they speak, or maybe like a different accent,
What, from the South?
Yeah,
Like the
helps.
actual South?
Yeah, it helps. Do you? Because there's a lot of people that come here, and you hear.
I think
that-
you need to have your hair slicked back wearing loafers with no socks.
What do you think, man? You think having
Just
an
kidding.
accent helps out? I mean, would you develop an
That's
accent?
freestyle, man.
Because I was thinking if I was an attorney, I would develop an accent.
Like McConaughey?
Hair slicked back in a ponytail like Ellie Law.
Like what's that movie
Like,
McConaughey?
hey, y'all,
A Time
I'm-
to Kill?
I'm
A time
from,
to kill. Yeah, a time to
about-
kill.
I'm
The
just an
lawyer.
attorney trying to help people out, you know.
That's
like,
what I'm saying. Hey,
I sleep on backseat of my Lincoln.
I'm your guy. If you want to look at me, I'm your guy.
Well, let me-
and when
let-
you just
let-
talk like that, it's like, oh, wait a second. This guy, he knows what he's talking
Let me
about.
tell you something.
right?
You want to
That's
learn
a good idea. Maybe I should.
You should develop
You
an
should.
accent.
Take like some sort of class.
Hi, I'm Joe Dragon.
Hey, what about you? You gonna get an accent?
Get home right now.
You should
All
get an
right,
accent
all
too.
right,
You
all
want
Which
to do
one
the
should I
South?
get?
I think you should do
I
more.
think British would be better.
British is better because
Yeah, what
it's-
about Matt James? Where's
Look,
Matt
let's hear
been?
your best British accent.
Super proper.
Can you?
Hip hip ho, chitty-o.
There you go.
Oh, there you go.
Hello.
I would be represented to you in court.
Tommy, chop
I will be your barrister.
I'll be your counselor.
Yeah, we should have. Where's Matt Shields?
That's rubbish.
Right.
That's rubbish.
Hey, here we go. Let's do this. So you should be
Where's
like,
Shields at?
if you guys want to get with me on a
His voice-
foreclosure, we'll talk about getting a foreclosure.
No, what
terrible,
I do,
man.
Dan? What I do?
That was terrible, Dan.
Hey, I thought, but listen, I
like,
would
get
if
the
I was
mother.
an attorney, I would definitely get an accent, dude. I would stamp it because I'm going to tell you right now, if you get an accent, you're going to double your business.
Yeah, I know
Actually,
what
there is a better way to double it. I speak Spanish, so sometimes I used to do more Spanish-speaking clients. The best way to get more business in this town is to speak Spanish. Really,
true.
If you're a good
100%,
attorney, that's
yeah.
the best
Hey, but
way.
but you know what? That is true because so do you know Spanish? Do you
Yes.
have? Okay, let me
No.
let me see some Spanish.
Yeah, can you sing like a
Hola,
song?
¿cómo estás?
You mean you want to hear it or you want to
Yes,
see
yes,
it?
yes.
I want your
Exactly.
sales your sales pitch to say
Oh
hey,
my
I want you to
gosh.
come in and get a foreclosure
Yo
with
soy
first.
un abogado muy bueno y barato,
No,
which means I'm a good lawyer and I'm cheap.
There you go.
more
You can see it.
Moss.
and then say, hey, if you come in, you got a 12-pack of Coronas on me.
Pacifico.
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 Or Modelo.
That's
Modelo.
Modelo.
There you go.
Actually, there's a brand of Modelo called Noche Buena. I don't know if you guys ever heard of it. It's Noche Buena means Christmas Eve. They have like a winter lager, which is great if you've ever had it before.
Dude, I love people, and I wish I was. So check this out. I was gonna get and do learn how to speak Spanish. So this is about 10 years ago, and I'm like, I'm all in. And then I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I went halfway in, and I started learning a lot of stuff.
Halfway in.
Yeah. And I'm sitting there like, okay, wait a second,
learned
man.
half the-
I got a lot of stuff going on in life, and then every day I kick myself. I said, dude, I should have learned Spanish because you know how I can connect with people. I really can, but it's like that's my problem. That's my Achilles heel. I should have stayed in and started doing or learning Spanish. And I
Dude,
think,
you speak Spanish,
So-
still totally think you're
Hey.
from their culture.
Hey, so now that you quit, you can't go back, right?
well, here's the problem. It's like starting over. It's like learning like how to ride a bike. You go so many years and you're gonna just not learn. You're gonna forget. So that's what
No, I know what you mean.
It's almost
You
like
don't
starting back.
you
You're like,
don't
what
forget
is
to ride a
like?
bike,
What
though.
say? How? Huh?
You'll forget its language, but you don't forget to ride a bike.
I forgot to ride a bike.
No, you know how to ride a bike.
No, you just only half committed.
Hey, when I was there, man, it was like I learned how to ride a bike, and when I looked at it again, it's like, what do these things do? I got an electric bike, so that's why I don't.
Do you need to go see the doctor's office or something?
What are the
I
spokes on the wheel do?
I just think it's like you got to go through therapy. You got to learn it again.
I don't know. Bike's pretty easy.
Let's go over and segue over to talk about property management
Holy
with
crap.
Mr. R. He's R squared over here.
R squared.
R squared. What's up, buddy? So let's
Hey.
talk about it.
Oh, everything is status quo except it's really slowing down. It is. It's
Wait a second. December slowing down. In the
December
housing
is slowing.
market?
I
No.
What?
cannot believe it.
Wait,
But-
in December?
In December, unbelievable.
Huh.
Our Dan
What do you
happened
do,
to-
Rick? Do you
Dan-
just like hang out and watch
we-
Gunsmoke or what?
we actually we just
Netflix and
sit-
chills.
Yeah, we just sit in the office and play cards all day. But no, you guys want a couple of stats. The rental market is still getting larger.
Yeah.
There's more properties available. The number of applicants have really dropped. Everybody's out shopping. It's just what's happening. We've gone down another
So is
4%.
July or December the slowest month?
So
Oh,
on
December.
Oh,
But that was with rentals.
But wait, here's something that's interesting that came up a couple of shows ago, and Joe brought it up again today. And yesterday, the NAR came out with a report on the difference between mortgages and rental payments. And so I looked at all over the country. They basically are homes, our population of over 200,000 is what they were looking at. And one of the things I want to tell you, there isn't any place in the country metropolitan area where rents are higher than the mortgage payments. Mortgage payments are always higher. And we were talking a couple weeks ago about how the mortgage payment and the rental payments are getting closer and closer and closer together. Well, the actual statistics beg to differ, especially here in Las Vegas. So in Las Vegas, even though we had a 22% increase in sale prices, we had a 23% increase in rental prices. But at the same time, the rental prices are almost 50% less than mortgage.
Hold on, Brett. Will you get in that? Go ahead and get in that image just a little bit more, man. You're almost like hugging on him. So, like, there you go. Brett's over here. He's like, you're looking over his shoulder.
All right. So, but the point that I made many shows ago is that there are so many other areas in the country that are so much cheaper to move to, which again goes back to whether you sell and move, so on and so forth. And as an example, in Erie, Pennsylvania, the rental price is $1,000 and the mortgage price average is $1,200. There's only a $200 difference between the two.
I'm moving to Erie.
In Erie?
But
Erie.
you have
Where's
$1,000 a month.
It's kind of an eerie thought.
$1,000 a month in wood to heat your home.
Well,
That's the problem.
that's not the issue. So there's
And inflation comes in.
there are a lot of places in the country where the mortgage payment and your rental rate are almost the same. They're only a few $100s off. And of course, on the flip side, there are other metropolitan areas where, it's hugely different, where you'll have $1,500 for a rental, like in Burlington, South Burlington, Vermont, but you're paying over $3,000, $3,200 for a mortgage. So you're paying a lot more to own. But
In Burlington, Vermont?
yeah,
Compare what's the rent there?
$1,500 to $3,100.
Jeez.
Wow.
Okay, so
It's a college town, though, too.
But the point being again is it's all relative to where you live, and we've had that discussion 1,000 times here. And if you get caught in a tough spot, there's always opportunity to move outside of your current area into some place where you can afford.
I mean, I've done that
Moved
all
to
my
Pahrump.
all my life, right? I moved up. I went to law school in northern Idaho, right? Which I could have gone to Southern California, but I was like, money, do the math, right? I lived in Yerington, Nevada for 2 years. Got to do a clerkship, 3,000 people. So. You can save money, and you don't have to be stuck there forever. You just make this decision. But people
just got to sacrifice. I know.
People want everything now.
So
That's the problem.
So when we moved here, we came from Southern California, and I was living in an 800 square foot house, and at that point in time, that property was worth $145,000.
And you sold it for $900?
No, I didn't sell it for $900 because I didn't keep it. But at the time that we moved here, had a house built that was over 2,000 square feet that was brand new on up in the lakes, nice area, for $145,000, same price. So again, just what Joe said, we moved here, and at that point in time, I was thinking that we were downgrading, even though we were getting a brand new house, simply because of the area. You know, it wasn't L.A.
And what's interesting about it, I mean, I'm a Nevadan. Born and raised here, right? And the entire time, we've always had people from California because they've always had higher real estate sell and move my entire life, right? And all the Nevadans complain a bitch about it because, like, coming in here,
They always have,
and they're kind of envious about the fact that you were able to sell that much. But
They do. So they do really complain about Californians coming.
Do they always have?
Oh yeah. Oh
Really?
yeah.
Dude.
We don't like Californians, Dan.
Dude, in Wisconsin, when dude, in
We're
Wisconsin,
on the bus here. We don't like
dude,
them.
in Wisconsin, when Chicago and Illinois people move to Wisconsin, we bitch.
Yeah, it's what
Fibbers.
It's what
Why they
you
moving
do.
here?
Yeah, but everybody's from somewhere. Like, where did your family come from? I'm sure they didn't
Came from
start.
That's what
California.
people do,
Right.
man.
But I was born here.
Yeah, but it's still, I mean, they still originated from California.
Yeah, I don't like them.
Wow.
See, I'm telling you,
He's pointing at me, by the way.
it's real, bro.
Yeah, I married one too, so now it's all.
So you hate
backwards.
yourself? Is that what?
Yeah, there's a little self-loathing
deeper-
going on. But the point of that is, that the part of it was envious because you sell the house, you make less money than the person you're able to buy a better house because they have the equity. Now we're in a situation where Nevadans are having that opportunity. You bought like 5 years ago. You can move if you want. You can do what they did,
it's just
Yeah,
part
listen,
of it.
let's
going up.
talk about this. So the transition part of it for most people, especially going and renting, is a big deal, right? So that's a situation, right, where going from California, it's a problem potentially. Do you feel like that's an issue with the transition part of it, or you don't feel like that's a trend? Because I'm sure you deal with a lot of people that rent, right, Rick?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you ever
Yeah,
feel?
I agree.
But I mean, what are some of the challenges? Or that they don't? It's hard to move, so they come here to rent before they buy a mortgage, right?
Yes, there's quite a few that come here, and if they've sold, especially if they've sold, they've got a lot of money. And like I said in the past, they'll put down a year's worth of rent and wait to see how the valley really is.
Yeah.
And we all know the people that live here, that the valley on one side compared to the other side can be totally different, and it depends on the amenities that you're looking for. And so they come here, they rent, and they figure out what's going on in the valley, and then they go and pick a spot.
How slow is it right now, though? It's a slow market, isn't it?
It's slow.
Yeah, it's slow. I mean, it's eking. So average rents, real quick, throw it out there.
Average rents haven't moved in the past 30, 60 days. They're still the average, and where I'm talking when I say average, we're talking about a studio all the way up to being out at Lake Las Vegas. You're looking at about $1,750 a month.
Is it a premium for Lake Las Vegas? Just curious before I jump over to Brett.
Yeah.
Okay, how much is somebody that
Just
pays,
the HOA alone.
How much does somebody pay in rent up there?
$8,000 plus.
$8,000 a month?
Yeah. But the places are huge.
Yeah, I mean, they're huge. They're on the lake or a golf course. I mean,
Do
Do you know the
gated.
amount of home that you can buy with an $8,000 mortgage? You're probably looking
But
at like
see, this is a city that can-
$1.5 million
But this is
home.
a city that can get away with that because, say, you rent it out because you have executives that are coming to town and they need to stay for 2 or 3 months at a time. Or
I've been
something.
up there. $8,000 to me, I'm not paying $8,000 for
But
that.
what's it matter if you have a multi-million-dollar company? And
Well,
it's just
for-
like
for-
business expense. I'm just saying that situation is created in Vegas
Is-
multiple
is-
times over.
So here's the point. There aren't
basically,
there
rich
aren't
means.
a lot of available rental properties in that price bracket or out there at Lake Las Vegas. You were just asking me what it rents for. I told you.
Yeah.
So
By
I think
default.
we only have one or two out there, and
I just
it
feel
is
it's
what it is.
overpriced. That's just me. I do.
Dan, do you agree?
I don't agree on that one. I don't
So
concur.
what do you wanna know, man?
So
You
let's
wanna
go.
know
Let's
some
talk about real estate real quick.
Okay.
420 is where we're at right now. I know the price has gone up. We've had a lot of news out that the average
Yeah.
median price home's at 420. Also, too, I want to bring up the fact that we look at some of these properties and we're seeing immediate sales still.
Yeah.
And we're also seeing that when you look at going into 2022, because we want to talk about that part of it, that the first quarter is going to be. We're going to still see the immediate sales. We're also going to see
Yeah.
the appreciation. Builders are seeing pretty much getting whatever they want for properties. So go ahead and go into it.
Yeah, I mean, the builders are starting to come around with incentives. They're starting to come back around with more commissions and all that stuff. So they're still, they're starting to open up on that aspect, but they're still getting what they want per square foot. They're still being able to get lot premiums. I mean, we were just at that American West one earlier this week.
Yeah.
And I think the cheapest they had for a lot premium was $18,000.
Yeah.
All the way up to 28 or 29,000, something like that.
That's right.
And the other one that we were up in Summerlin was base premium of 43,000, all the way up to like 400,000.
Yeah, it's crazy
so
numbers.
as long as they're still able to do things like that, I mean, there's still a demand for it, and they're getting what they want. But overall, I mean, the thing about it is, so we had last week 3137, so 3,137 homes that were on the market for single family, and now there's 2,972. So we have a decrease of 5.6% of homes on the market.
But isn't that part of because it's the time of
Yeah,
year?
but you gotta
know what
understand
Nobody's
that.
listing their home, and people are staying.
So yeah, I mean, so that comes into play with what we anticipated was that there are going to be even less homes on the market right now, and there are. But the problem with that is that there weren't any homes to begin with on the market. So we have literally like 0.7, 0.8% of a month on the market right now.
And that's what's helping to hold prices up.
And that's exactly what's holding prices up.
What's normal? Do you know?
What's normal? I mean,
normal nationally or normal here?
So in Vegas,
months, right?
no, in Vegas, normal would probably be, I would say, in my opinion, between 9,000 to 11,000 on the market. But you got to consider that was before this huge move of Californians and other people moving here. So that was based on the population a couple of years ago.
But I want to say one thing. It's
So
not
add
just
in,
Californians.
you know.
Everybody keeps bringing up California.
Well, just all over the country.
A lot of people.
The huge
right?
migration
We
that's
understand
came
that
here in the last 2 years.
Predominantly, we have a lot of Californians.
Non-Nevadans.
Right. Non-Nevadans.
I got to tell you, man, I don't mind you bagging on California because I think California culture is actually really good. People from California to be nice.
I have nothing against California. I'm from the Midwest, man. It's all the same to me.
I have no problem. You want to talk about California? Fine.
It's
I love
West
it when you
Coast.
say California's.
Hey.
What I don't like is when Californians bring some of their California politics here.
Yeah.
But that's a different story.
Well, it's like everyone's welcome, just don't bring your politics.
They got the Rams though. They suck.
Well, do you want to be a Raiders fan?
Hey,
Do you
So
want me to
point
be a
being
Raiders
is
fan?
with the housing market, it's the same problem we've been having, but even more so now, which is there's even less homes on the market. So it's just, there's really no inventory.
Well,
Right.
are they building more now, though?
But that's all relative because they're not overbuilding. And builders have done a really good job about monitoring what they need to do for their business when they kind of overextended themselves in the crash of 08, 07, 08. So, and not to mention, even if you're pulling the permits and you're pulling all those things, by the time you can actually start developing that land, I mean, you're looking at 6 months, 9 months, 12 months down the road from when you're first pulling the permits. So that's not going to do anything.
Here's what I
right
think is
now.
going to happen. So we talked about it. So I'm going to say this: Alto's research, immediate sales were at 25%. That means if they put the house on the market, 25% of those homes that were put on the market immediately sold. There was no time period for waiting to get
Gotcha.
others. The
Right
other
away.
thing too is you have 30 to 35% of normal, let's say, prices that that you say a seller would post the house for. It would be 30 to 35% above what they would actually sell the house for. So there's a price reduction going on right now. So in July, 35% of an increase as far as postings, right? Listing the house. By the time it's selling, right now it's 27%. So we're seeing a price reduction on 27% of homes. We
Yeah.
had 35% of homes out there were
Agreed
over
with that.
list and they were listing it, but they were getting it.
But that comes back
But now
into
now we're seeing a price reduction and it's down to 27. They think it's going to continue, where the price reductions are going to continue to
Well,
drop going into the first,
because
second
the
quarter.
problem we had before was you were having, like I said, we've had those homes in the neighborhood that should have not only not sold for list price, but should have sat there in a normal market, sat there a little bit because they weren't the best home in the neighborhood. And you price anything right, it's going to sell. But those were selling full price, over full price, even the ones that shouldn't have been. So now what you're seeing is the drawback of that. Those are going back to the normal process, which is they're not selling right away. They're not selling they're not selling the same price as the ones that are completely redone to the best home in the neighborhood. Before they were, now they're not. So you're still having the sales price kept up, relatively speaking, because there's no demand. I mean, because there's no inventory. But
And it's
you're
gonna
starting
continue.
to see that.
It's gonna continue
So you're
into
going to see that,
2022.
yeah. But you're not seeing in excess, and in regards to that, I mean, you're not seeing homes that should be selling right away for over list selling over list. That's starting to come back to normal.
Brett, I had a question I was always curious about. Do you know where do we have more land to build here in Las Vegas? Are we running out of space here or not?
no.
No,
No.
we have plenty of space. I mean, specifically the northwest. I mean, that
Just
can
keep
go all the
going
way.
that way.
Yeah,
All the way to
Same thing
Utah.
with south.
I mean,
the only area I think we're limited in a sense is out towards Red Rock, and even that I think will be some areas developed with enough money.
Well, and look at the south right now. It's still not. There's still, you fly over it. There's still tons.
When you
empty-
fly over it and you
Yeah.
look at an aerial map,
It's still-
you see
it looks
all
sparse.
and then you see
It looks
see it
sparse.
open.
But the answer to that question, I mean, we
You
got
can fill that in quick though.
look at Phoenix. You ever drove through Phoenix, right? In all the suburbs,
Mm-hmm.
one continuous urban area. You go over the ridge and on to the next
Yeah.
valley. There's a valley over there.
There's
a valley
plenty
over
of
there, a
land.
valley over
Even
there.
if we
I
need
mean-
to connect with Boulder City someday.
I would say
Yeah,
there's
you know?
plenty of land. I would say at least 20 years, maybe longer, before we would actually even consider thinking of running out of land here.
Yeah.
There's so much land towards the north.
I
going
think more
towards the
people have
Speedway.
water issues than they do land issues.
I don't even
Have
think
you
we-
seen Nevada? It's one big empty wasteland. Just two towns.
Yeah.
Coming
It's
from a
There's a
Nevada.
reason it's called the Great Basin, right?
I mean,
Great
they used to
spokesman,
blow
Joe.
up a bunch of nuclear bombs. Just north
anything
of
else,
us.
Brett,
It's
on
crazy.
real estate?
No, man, I could go on, but we're
Yeah.
good.
All right. You guys have anything else to say? I want to end the show.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Rick,
Well-
you got the show, buddy.
Hey, I just want to find out if we're still on track for the viewers to see us all dressed up for Christmas next weekend.
Is that next weekend?
Oh
That is
yeah,
next weekend,
Yep.
next Saturday.
I'll be out
As
of
long as we
town.
do our full house skit,
Oh yeah, when are we gonna do that?
I'm gonna write it up this week.
Nice.
Well, I don't have to write up much. Just
Just copy it.
here's a scene and here's your part. leaned against the tree and play the guitar.
So listen, I'm going to say this, guys. We're going to please tune in next Saturday because Rick's saying that we're going to dress up, and what we're dressing up as is Christmas characters, right? It's going to be
ho ho ho.
Ho, ho, ho.
Oh, that's how you're dressing up. Oh, sorry.
oh
Ho, ho, ho.
ho ho ho. So let's talk about this for a second. Also, I want to tell you guys, I want to give everybody a shout out there that's watched the show or that's contributed to the show. We're really trying to bring value to you and connect with you on an individual basis because I think a lot of people, a lot of this stuff we talk about, it's not really things that people deal with on a daily basis, but stuff like foreclosures and having stuff with, loan mods and what's going on. So we're really trying to connect, and really the show's only the show because you guys, you know what I mean? Like people out there listening. So we want to say thank you so much for the contribution that you guys have had over the course of this year heading into next year, and we're going to just make it better. I'm going to try to do my best to make it better, give you guys more content and more value, because I think that's really what it's about, right? It's just, they're the ones, like the people out there are the reason why we show up every Saturday and every Tuesday, and I just want to thank everybody out there for that. So you guys
You're in a
have
thankful mood?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a very grateful,
You're a very
thankful
holiday person.
I am.
Dan's thankful.
I've been those people. Like I can
You are
relate
those people.
to people out there that have questions about financing. In my day, I didn't know anything
Dan.
about financing. It took me a long time to understand all this stuff.
Dan.
What?
Hey,
You and me, bud.
hey, thank you for putting it all together.
We try. We try.
Yeah, Dan, we do appreciate it.
Dan's the man. If for anybody who doesn't know, you give him a call, he gets you the hookup.
He gets you the hook.
He
He
does.
does. He does.
So, but
Very
I
simple.
listen. And
Dan, the
I think
French man.
I think it extends out because a lot of people think like we just show up and it's just like, hey, we're going to throw some stuff out. I mean, I really
We
wanna-
don't?
I don't. I do research because I want to
do
provide
research.
value
Yeah.
to people out there that like you. You came in, you talked about foreclosures today, right?
He has a name.
Yeah. I mean, well, Remy.
Talking about Rams fan
You mean it's
rebel.
best to be prepared for things behind the scenes? Huh.
Well, what do you do, Brett, when you go on a listing?
Just show up and flash them my smile, and hopefully they give me the listing.
Anyways, you guys have anything else to say?
Yeah, well, you can contact me, dragonlawgroup.com, but I wanted to say a couple things. First of all, Ramey, the University of Nevada has just destroyed the Rebels the last 2 games. We have the Canyon.
Which University of Nevada?
Oh, is that?
The University of Nevada. And the
Which one?
49ers, I want to say how many back to back to back to back
5.
to back.
It ends
to
in
back-
January 9th.
The back
January
wins
9th it
against the
ends.
Rams. He's very sensitive. Just thought I'd let you know.
Hey, give Atlas Group a call if you need anything on property management. Look us up on the website, www.property-mgmt.com.
BrettJenny.com.
Pleasure
Easy.
being on here, guys. Thank you.
Hey, man, it's been a pleasure having you. I know, like, look,
Thanks for coming on, man.
We have a lot
Appreciate
of things to talk about, but it's been a pleasure. And guys, people like you that come on the show actually make the show because we can only talk about real estate and financing so much, right?
We're done talking. We're done talking about ourselves. We need to hear somebody else.
I want to also say this. We're going to really try to branch off and talk a little bit more other than just financing real estate going into next year. So I really want to start incorporating that into the show.
Are you foreshadowing?
Yes, I am, because I'm doing my whole business plan and I'm doing my business thoughts for the year, and I really want to bring the value. And I told you guys, so everybody out there, you guys, thank you so much, and we'll see you guys on Tuesday, and hopefully you enjoyed the show. See you then.
Thanks.
Later.